All right. Just give this 1 second. All right. All right. All right. All right. Let's start. I have called this When Everything is Falling Apart, because I've had a lot of things falling apart in my life lately and not going my way or whatever. Like it's and so it's very interesting to come face to face with myself and the situation around me and just be in it. So that is the invitation today. Also, we've had like tornadoes and flooding and wildfires from Canada, really bad air here. So there's a lot of stuff for everyone's nervous system to take in on a large level, and a lot of stuff that the planet is taking in. And I was listening to the podcast on Michael Taft's Deconstructing Yourself with Rick Jarow, who is up here in the Hudson Valley. And it was talking about the eco aesthetics and the poetry of longing. And the eco aesthetics are like the aesthetics of the planet in an artistic way and how they connect to us. So he translated the Kalidasa poem, the Meghadut, which is about a yaksha, earth spirit, who's pining for his love, who he's separated from because of the rainy season and the monsoon season. And we've been having a monsoon season here. And in this epic poem, the story isn't really about the love and the lover. It's kind of about the landscape of India. And he's talking to a cloud, telling the cloud to bring a message to his lover. And so, and in this podcast, they also talk about Seth Speaks, the book Seth Speaks. And I think in Seth Speaks, the thing that Rick Jarow pointed out happened in it is that that Seth was talking about weather being the Earth's emotional expression. And so I thought about that, like when things are falling apart for us, we have, an emotional expression. But when things are falling apart on the planet, there's an emotional expression. So I want to let this in and not push it away, and let the stuff that needs to sort itself out in whatever way that is, right? By just simply allowing and accepting and being with. So the invitation today is to be with our earthy bodies and the earth herself, itself, himself, and the wholeness pattern of us all together in this moment, with whatever comes up, whether things are constructing or falling apart, right? So in my punk rock band, we have a song called Even Death is Life. So it's cyclical, this ending and beginning and ending and beginning. So just leaning into that. So maybe things are coming up as endings, maybe things are coming up as beginnings, maybe things are not coming up that you want to come up, or maybe things are flooding you with too much. And so let's just take a minute to breathe into our own weather patterns, the weather patterns of the humans around us, and the weather patterns of the planet, with compassion and kindness and acceptance. And whatever emotions come up. So yeah, like, of course, emotions are going to come up. Even listening to Rick Jarow talk about this, he's talking about this beauty and this relationship with nature, where it's not something separate to be dominated, but something that we're living with. And how heartbreaking that can even be, just even like an animal or a plant, what's happening to the life in our world, in its beauty and in its, in its construction and in its destruction. But when Rick is talking about it in this podcast, you can hear him get emotional several times. And so often we're taught not to be emotional and to stifle our emotions. And we need to allow them in like the weather. So I think we'll just sit with that for a couple of breaths. Maybe hands on your chest, maybe hands on your belly. Maybe micro movement is coming in, supporting you. Or maybe you're very still, whatever feels right to you. Allowing everything in. Everyone is allowed. Everyone is here together. The planet, us, the creatures, the elements. Coming into your weather, into the weather pattern. Interestingly, also on a body level, there are pressure differentials in different parts of our body, right? The highest pressure, high pressure moves to low pressure, right? So the highest pressure is in our extremes where they have to do all the work to come into this open space that's more low pressure. I think I said that right. What if I said it backwards? Oh no. High pressure moves towards low pressure. So, and our organs are organized in this pressurized system. Oh yeah. So one thing that Leslie Kaminoff says is with our diaphragm, if we didn't have the diaphragm there, all of our organs would pop up, right? They're packed in there under this pressurized system. So everything's in there the way it's supposed to be, right? And we can believe and trust in the pressure systems within our body, but we can also tap into the pressure system a little bit by giving it some nourishing. So it could be ujjayi breath, like a soft, just a soft containment of the breath, which I would normally do on the inhale and the exhale. Sometimes when it's taught, people teach it really loud, but I think it's actually much more subtle than that. We teach it loud so other people can hear it and comprehend what it is that, you know, like you're making that Darth Vader sound, but lighten that up. And another way to balance out that pressure system is coherent breathing, right? Coming into a count of an even inhale and an even exhale. And the real sort of optimal point for that is like about 5.5 seconds in, 5.5 seconds out. So you could double it up. You could do a coherent ujjayi, counting in for 5 and out for 5. And I'll let us do that on our own with our own counts. For a few minutes. Maybe 6 is a better number. Maybe 4 is a better number for you. Really work with what feels right to you. Inviting your system to come into this sense of balance. Not going up, not going down, just right there in the middle. Heart rate working with the respiration, working with the nervous system, working with the hormones, working with the gut body. So for me, when things are really big and scary in the outer world, like I definitely need to spend a lot more time with myself in my inner world. And it's a luxury to have that time. So I feel very grateful to be able to be here with you in whatever time zone, in whatever part of the world that we are doing this together. So I want to, now that I have felt my system really calm down a lot, come to play with the elements a little bit. So I think in like, Wiccan, like I'm thinking more like Northern European Celtic traditions where there's a relationship to the earth and there's a relationship to the water, or American indigenous people, same thing. Most indigenous people have a relationship to the ground beneath their feet, to the air, to the water, to the community. So inviting in that relationship, this relationship between our living bodies with the living planet, with the other people. We can think of the relationship between our cells and the air, and imagining that the air has just as much awareness and vitality and life force as we do. So that this interaction of breathing is a life-giving force, right? Which is a life-giving force. So letting us invite that in. And I want to play with the breath as if we are creating the winds, bringing them in, letting go of whatever we need to, inviting in the aliveness of the breath, of the air, and letting it out. Sometimes people think of the air quality as being, and I don't mean the quality of the air, I mean the air elemental quality as being playful and free and expansive, right? The air can go anywhere. We're sharing the air. So feeling into that, letting yourself awaken to the lungs, to the breath of the planet. I've heard of the rainforests being described as the lungs of the earth. And if you look from like a drone image of trees, the treetops as they're all moving together, it's not unlike lungs, or branches, not unlike the lungs. So inviting that in, this relationship to the oxygen and the life-giving forces of the earth, the trees, us with our intake of oxygen, outgoing the CO2, and this intelligent balance that the planet and our bodies find together. And we're just going to allow that flow in more and more. So air is considered a fluid because it flows. So playing with the airflow, with your imagination, maybe with the space around you. Sometimes space and air can be kind of conflagrated or confused. They might be slightly different things, but air is within the space and there is a spaciousness to the air. So we could just kind of include them together in our exploration. As I play with the air, I'm also playing with the space. As I invite in the air, and we have these wildfires in Canada, so I'm inside and I have the AC on. What I'm going to imagine in my mind's eye, that it's raining on those wildfires in Canada, that the big rains that we've been getting down here in New York State make their way up there to Canada. What if we all imagine that, right? Or whatever's happening where you are in the weather. Maybe it's dry. Maybe it's cold. Yeah, becoming like an elemental sorcerer or sorceress to play with the air, inviting it in. Inviting the energy of the planet in. Not fighting against it. I want to also add the element of the water. I just talked about the rain and the flooding that's been going on here. And also when we're really stressed, sometimes our hormones flood our nervous system, right? And then we feel very elevated and activated, right? So that kind of flooding in our body is a fluid flow, right? It's a fluid, and that's got an electrical charge too. So it's not just the water element flooding, there's an electrical charge moving through our body and our nervous system. And the electricity is also within our heart. So there's this interrelated fire and water happening with our blood flow, but also with the movement of information through our nervous system. So we could imagine that we're inviting in the fire and water in our body, the heat of our aliveness and passion, to integrate with this air and to also integrate with the water and the fire of the planet. And maybe adding a shh sound, like steam. And I'm actually going to stand up. I'll probably get down on the floor in a minute, but I feel like I just need more. I need more whole body participation for this. But maybe it's different for you, and maybe there's smaller, maybe it's in stillness, any way that it feels interesting for you. And that brings up emotions again, the emotions of the planet, the emotions of my body, right? It's like a mother calming a child. Everything is okay. You're okay right now in this moment. So the sort of maybe maternal grandmother, mother nurturing, calming that maybe you received from your family and maybe you didn't, but let's kind of offer that to ourselves and to the planet. Allowing the weather system in, allowing the poetry of the life force of the planet, right? The beauty and the abundance of the planet into our system. The yaksha whispering to the cloud about his longing for his lover, and this landscape of India being the whole poem. When people are connected to place, right? That's what Rick is also talking about in that podcast, being connected to place, being connected to ground, not separate from, of the environment, not in the environment. We are earthlings on this planet. It's part of us. We are part of it. We form from the forces of the gravity, the magnetic field, the air, the water. Right? Where the sense of wonder, finding the sense of wonder, connecting to the emotional sense of wonder and awe can be part of the practice. And witnessing, WITHNESS, like witness, but witness, where we're present with everything that's going on. A lot of times I just don't watch the news or listen to it as much as possible because it's too depressing. But there are things that are unavoidable, right? There are things that you can't not hear or see. They're in your world. We're in its world. Inviting our hearts to participate together, right? To be in loving connection with ourselves, with our people, our partners, our families, the planet. And maybe you don't have that. Maybe there's a lot of fighting or tension, but maybe it's okay just to imagine it's not that way. Just imagine that there is an underlying, supporting, loving force supporting you and coming from you, if possible, emanating from you. Sometimes I think about that in my family. Me and my brother have a real loving relationship and also a really fraught one. So sometimes I think, why wouldn't I want him to be happy? Why wouldn't I want the best thing for him? Why wouldn't I want him to feel good about his life or his stuff? And when I think about that, then it gives me the space to feel, yes, I want him to be happy. He's a good person. I am proud of him. I can be loving and not in conflict, in, competition or whatever it is. Not in, oh, he got what I wanted, any of that. Yeah, our icy northern ancestors were very hard, very stalwart, pushing forward, doing their things. So tuning into the patterning also that comes from the family system, from the ancestral system, and just asking, are we ready to change and shift some of this patterning? There was also tremendous resilience and strength. My grandma came from the Arctic Circle of Norway. She skied down a mountain daily to go to school. I'm going to add music and let us play with that. So maybe there are people in your family, in your past, in the ancestral lineage that are showing up in your DNA or in your energy field, and they are there to support you and love you. Right? So can we open up to that idea? Even if it's just, an imaginary one, even if it's in the imagination, it's hard for us to know the difference between what's real and the imagination. So feeling into that, feeling into the support of family. And we're going to use Jeff Gersh, Ambient Fields, made in Iceland. Hopefully it's not too loud. Let the music support your movement. You can bring in the sounds, shapes, whatever feels good in your body. With all of it, being with all of it. Allowing the emotions to pour forth or not. If they don't want to go anywhere, that's fine too. But feeling into the beauty and the wonder of being with all of its pain, with all of its joy. Suspended in being, right? We're suspended here in this moment in time. It's not throwing us out. We're still here. And because we're suspended in this moment in time, which is constantly shifting into the next moment, but it's only ever this moment. We belong. We belong in this moment because we're right here. Humbled by the experience of being, right? The experience of being, we're alive here. We are these bodies of energy, of fire, of water, of air, of earth, and we're of this earth. Allowing any of the patterning within our systems, right? There's lots of patterning, the way we think about ourselves, or the way we feel into ourselves, the way we feel into our cells. Just giving that patterning 1% more spaciousness, or maybe 20% more spaciousness, whatever. Something that's manageable, not too destabilizing. Something that's kind. Can I be here in my body on this planet again today, in this moment? Letting our hearts break and heal constantly, right? There's a heartbreak when we feel into what it feels like to share an experience with somebody, or to hear of somebody else's traumas, or even your own. There's a little kitty down here getting in on the action, right? Sometimes, like for the children who were born unwanted, let's just open up our hearts to that. But somehow you were called into this planet, if you were that unwanted child, somehow, or a surprise child, right? The people who come into the planet born here, some life force called you in. And to all the people that are struggling with being here now, can you find some lightness? Or maybe it's people that you know that are struggling with it. In whole systems, often in family systems, usually one person is expressing the grief, another one expresses the anger, somebody else expresses the control, right? What if we shift those around a little bit, mix it up? If one person in the system changes, the whole system changes. And when we open ourselves up to taking in the spaciousness, to taking in the air and the water and the flows, where we don't have to fight them, we can allow the flow to flow. This is what's happening. We can notice when we start to feel gripping or tension or resistance. Just notice it. Look at that. You don't have to throw it away, but you can see it. But I feel like when we come to these movement practices, when we come to embodiment, we're just offering our bodies to clear a lot of stuff. Maybe it's my stuff I'm clearing. Maybe it's family patterning. Maybe it's someone else's, some idea that somebody imposed upon me about who I should be or how I should be. Maybe I can just crack that off and let it be composted. In the emotions of the world, the emotions of the planet. Can I be in the I don't know? Can I be okay in the question, in the inquiry, in the uncertainty? We're always suspended in this moment, right? We aren't going to fall out of it as long as we're alive. See if you can bring back the really light, gentle ujjayi with the 5 or 6 count coherent breathing in your movement. See if you can invite that in. Really gentle, soft, and friendly. me, it's hard to add a count in there, but I can just do the ujjayi and kind of think of it being the same duration. Letting go of effort, letting whatever movement arises be effortless. And ideally pleasurable to some degree. If your mind is thinking about a lot of things, also you can see that as a flow of thoughts. And that flow of thoughts is connected to everything you've experienced or being in the world, other people, the things you hear about. Suspended in this moving moment, also within all the relationships that we have and the planet, the people, the animals. In this wave of being, this continuity of being, shifting, changing, adjusting, experiencing. Yeah, that's Jeff Gersh, Ambient Fields. This album is number 2. And that was song number 1 on album number 2. So if you're out there in TV land, give yourself some time to come in for a landing after doing a practice like this. And maybe just sit quietly, drink water, whatever you got to do to let the process.